You ever seen a global brand worth billions just vanish? Like poof, gone overnight? Well, that's pretty much the story of Twitter. Today, we're going to unpack the absolutely wild ride of how that friendly little blue bird got swapped out for, the letter X. I mean, this is a journey that's got everything: insane growth, a full on cultural revolution, and yeah, a massive multi billion dollar takeover that literally changed the sign on the front door. So, the big question is, how did this simple idea, just short little messages, turn into one of the most talked about, most controversial tech stories out there? All right, let's go back, way back to the beginning. Okay, so our story kicks off back in 2006. And the idea for what would become Twitter, it didn't start with some huge explosion. Nope. It was more like a simple little sketch, and a name that, well, was missing a few vowels. Yeah, its original code name was Twitter. Just like that. It was an idea from Jack Dorsey, and he was totally inspired by the big vowelless translator at the time, Flickr. You remember that, right? I mean, they were so early to the game that it took them 6 months after they launched to even buy the domain name with the vowels. So the whole concept was actually really simple: microblogging. Just think of it like super short SMS-style updates for the internet. And that 140-character limit, that wasn't a mistake or a bug. That was the entire point. It kind of forced everyone to be concise, like a form of digital poetry. It was a totally new way to talk to the world. And let me tell you, the growth was just insane. The real launchpad was the South by Southwest conference in 2007. This thing went from a tiny niche service to a global phenomenon almost overnight. The number of tweets people were sending every single day, it was just multiplying at a crazy, staggering rate. So as it got bigger and bigger, it started to change. It wasn't just another social network anymore. It really morphed into this kind of global town square. A place where you could find real-time debates, breaking news as it happened, and just a fire hose of unfiltered public opinion. So you gotta wonder, what were people even talking about in those early days? Well, a 2009 analysis found that a whopping 40% of all tweets were just pointless babble. What I had for lunch, that kind of thing. But buried inside all that noise was the platform's real power, its true potential. It was becoming this brand new space for a truly global conversation. Right, because that babble didn't stay babble for long. It evolved really fast. The platform became this absolutely essential tool for organizing huge social movements. We're talking everything from the Iranian Green Revolution to the Occupy protests. It also became a de facto emergency alert system during disasters. And get this, it even created a whole new direct channel for diplomacy, completely changing how world leaders talk to us and to each other. But this global town square we were all getting used to, it was heading for a massive turning point. A single moment that was going to change its entire path. And oh yeah, it came with one heck of a price tag. Okay, so here it is, October 2022. Elon Musk seals the deal and buys Twitter for a mind-blowing $44 billion. And this was so much more than just a change in ownership. This was basically the opening act for a complete and total teardown of the company's entire identity. See, Musk's vision was way, way bigger than just owning a social media site. His goal was to build what he calls an everything app, kind of like China's WeChat, where you do everything in one place: your messages, your payments, everything. So the little blue bird wasn't just getting a new boss. It was about to get a complete top-to-bottom makeover. And what happened next was just a blur of fast, radical changes. And they started with the two things that had defined the platform for more than 15 years: its name and that famous logo. And man, was it swift. By July 2023, the iconic bird logo, his name was Larry, by the way, was officially retired. Gone. By May of the following year, even the Twitter.com web address was history. I mean, think about that. In less than 2 years, one of the most famous brands on the entire planet was just taken apart, piece by piece. And this rebrand was way more than just a new coat of paint. The old blue checkmark, the one that meant you were a notable public figure, gone. Scrapped for a paid subscription. That classic character limit, it disappeared for paying customers. And then a whole bunch of new features started rolling in. Job searches, AI, you name it. All of it was pushing toward that everything app dream. And now, to make room for all this new stuff, some of the old stuff had to go. So familiar features like circles, moments, and remember fleets, they were all put out to pasture as the company really doubled down on its new vision. Now, as you can imagine, this complete demolition and rebuild of the platform's identity, its features, its core policies, it didn't exactly happen quietly. In fact, it kicked off a brand new and, yeah, deeply controversial era for the company. The whole pay for a checkmark thing became an immediate flashpoint. I mean, the argument from critics was that this thing that used to be a free symbol of authenticity, well, now it was just for sale. And you had these different tiers from about $8 a month for a person all the way up to $1,000 a month for a company. But the controversy definitely didn't stop there. This new era brought a wave of criticism. You had accusations of more disinformation and hate speech on the platform. There were suspensions of journalists' accounts, and it created this really tense, almost adversarial relationship with advertisers and with the groups that monitor this kind of stuff. And here's a really big one. One of the most major policy shifts was when the platform just stopped enforcing its own rules about labeling misinformation related to the coronavirus. For a lot of people watching, that was a huge red flag, a clear signal that the company's whole philosophy on content moderation was changing, and changing dramatically. And that pretty much brings us right up to today. The platform is standing at a major crossroads. It's torn between this really ambitious dream of becoming an everything app and, that messy, chaotic, but absolutely essential town square that it used to be. So I guess the big question we're all left with is this. Can you really build a brand new empire on the ruins of an old one without losing the very thing that made people want to be there in the first place?